Oh god, another person is reviewing Banjo Kazooie, huh? It is kind of cliche and typical that a retro review channel must review this game early in a channel's life. Why is that? It's because the game is considered a classic. Even over 20 years later, the game is universally loved. The people that weren't a fan of it really just weren't fans of 3D platformers or collectathons in general, at least for the most part. It is a game that a nobody like me could say, I like this, and it comments from people saying, I like this too. It just does everything so well. The characters are likable and unique. The story is funny and dumb. The music is incredible. The stages are diverse and fun, and of course, the gameplay of just collecting things is still so great. So let's get into why Banjo Kazooie is held in such a high regard, and why joining the roster of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was such a big deal more than 10 years after the most recent release in the game franchise, and about 20 years after the release of this one. I should also mention, I played this on my Xbox Series X for this video, so the gameplay clips are on the Xbox 360 arcade version. So first, we gotta get into the story. A witch named Gruntilda is moping in her castle that is located at the edge of Spiral Mountain. She's looking into her cauldron, realizing how ugly she is. She asks the cauldron what is the best way to become more attractive. The cauldron responds by suggesting that she kidnaps a little girl named Tootie, and using her machine to extract Tootie's attractiveness. Gruntilda sets out to do just that. She captures Tootie successfully, but this awakens her older brother named Banjo and his bird pal Kazooie. These two team up together to go and save Tootie. I personally love this plot. It's goofy enough that it doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it gives the player an objective that hangs over their head the entire game. Banjo-Kazooie trudge through Spiral Mountain where they meet Bottles the Mole. Bottles serves as the game's tutorial character. He's in Spiral Mountain among other levels, teaching the Bear and Bird duo new moves that they can use to progress through the game. Luckily, the tutorial can be skipped, which is nice for veteran players. After reaching Gruntilda's lair, a cutscene will play of Gruntilda setting up the machine and putting herself, as well as Tootie, inside of it. This gives the player motivation to keep going and save Tootie, dammit. A Jiggy piece will be sitting in the lair, which Banjo needs to pick up. After picking it up, Banjo can place it into a puzzle template to unlock Mumbo's Mountain, the first world in the game. Before I get into these worlds, I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about the gameplay and the collectibles. Banjo Kazooie is a 3D platformer collectathon. Puzzles will pop up throughout the game that forces the player to utilize the wide moveset that the duo have. They can do a horizontal double jump, a vertical backflip, a ground pound, turn invincible with golden feathers, shoot eggs, among other moves. These can be used to unlock or pick up the game's collectibles. The main collectibles on display here are the Jiggies. There are 10 in each world, plus a witch switch in each world for an additional 1 in each world, plus 1 at the beginning of Gruntilda's lair, so that'd be 99, plus 1 for the beginning one, for 100 Jiggies total. These can be put into puzzle templates, and when a puzzle template is complete, that corresponding world will be unlocked. I like to think of these as the Power Stars in Super Mario 64, or Golden Bricks in LEGO Star Wars. I also love the little dance and jingle that occurs when a Jiggy is picked up. Musical notes are a collectible that unlocks doors. When picked up, they will make a cute little jingle. There are 100 featured in each world for 900 notes total. This is one of the major ways how the Xbox 360 version differs from the Nintendo 64 version. In the N64 version, these needed to be collected in a single run. For example, if one collected 80 notes, then dies or leaves the level, the notes will reappear in the level and their high note score will be 80. To get 100, they will need to collect these 80 notes again on top of the 20 that they didn't get the first time. In the Xbox 360 version, those 80 notes would stay collected if we're doing the same example, and only they would need the last 20 notes to get to 100. In other words, they don't reappear. It adds a taste of challenge, which is why some actually prefer the Nintendo 64 version over the Xbox 360 one. After dying in the infamous engine room on this playthrough though, I prefer the Xbox 360 version full stop compared to the Nintendo 64 version, though I missed the walking Nintendo 64 logo in the intro. The Xbox 360 version also runs at a much better resolution, has improved sprite work, runs at a locked frame rate of 30 FPS, and restores the stop and swap feature that I'll get to in a bit. Wanted to clear up the version differences real quick, but either way the one plays, Banjo-Kazooie should supply the player with lots of fun, and they really are similar. Back to the collectibles. There are also Jinjos. There are 5 of them in every world and they are all different colors. Blue, green, orange, purple, and yellow. After all 5 of the Jinjos have been saved by Banjo, he will be awarded a Jiggy. Like the notes, these need to be collected in one sweep in the Nintendo 64 version. Meanwhile, they can be collected in different runs on the Xbox 360 version. I like the way they scream, "Help!" when the player gets near them. It's a fun indicator when Banjo is near one of them. Next are the hollow Honeycomb pieces. There are 2 in each world plus 6 in Spiral Mountain for 24 total. When 6 of these are collected, an extra hit point will be added to Banjo's overall health. They make a cool little buzzy bee noise when collected. Banjo starts off with 5 health points and will end up with 8. And no, my math is not wrong. For whatever reason, the 9th hit point isn't actually rewarded for picking up the last 6 empty honeycombs. Very similarly, filled honeycombs can also be picked up from defeating enemies. These will simply fill up a hit point if Banjo has one lost. The last bit of collectibles are ones that don't necessarily unlock anything, but can help Banjo Kazooie perform their moves. First up are the blue eggs. These can be shot out of Kazooie's mouth or behind. These are great for hitting switches and enemies from far away, and typically up to 100 can be held. Another collectible are the red feathers, which can help Kazooie fly and perform the beak bomb attack. Typically up to 50 of these can be held. The last consumable collectible for activating a move are called the golden feathers. These will ensure that the Wonderwing move can be used, but only 10 can be held. Another collectible is the extra life, which is pretty self-explanatory. There are also stage-sensitive items that can be picked up, such as the Kid's Presence and Freezeezy Peak. The last collectible that I can think of are the Mumbo Tokens. In certain stages, Mumbo can transform Banjo and Kazooie into another creature. These creatures usually have an ability. For example, the pumpkin in Mad Monster Mansion is small and can fit into tight places, and the bee in Click Clock Wood can fly. When Mumbo is present, he can be found in a skull-shaped building. When a transformation is available, it will usually net Banjo at least 1 Jiggy. With all that good stuff out of the way, now let's tackle the stages. The first stage is Mumbo's Mountain, and it's a pretty nice and easy beginner's level. I'm by no means a speedrunner, but I completed the stage in like 15 minutes. The level is small and contained. No space is wasted. There are notes in the water, a giant bowl across the bridge, a gorilla on top of an orange tree, tiki huts that can be ground pounded on top of the hill, an anthill that Banjo can enter, with collectibles just sprinkled everywhere. Mumbo himself is present in the stage, and he turns Banjo into an ant. As the ant, Banjo can climb up steep slopes with ease and can get higher up in the anthill. I can't think of too much else to say here, as the stage is pretty basic and it has that good old first stage syndrome. It's enjoyable to breeze through, but it was developed to be an easy romp. Banjo-Kazooie learned 3 moves here. The first one is the Talon Trot. It allows Kazooie to move faster and go up slopes with ease. Another move learned here allows Kazooie to shoot eggs out of her behind and mouth. Lastly, the ground pound-like move called the Beak Buster is also learned here. Up next is Treasure Trove Cove, which I personally think rocks. The music is a huge standout to me. It's just so upbeat and blends with the theme of the stage super well. Not just that, the music changes at certain parts of the level. It gets all echoey in the Hermit's shell after it's defeated, and underwater it sounds like the speakers have just been submerged. It gets all quiet when Banjo is up in the sky too. There's a neat treasure hunt where Banjo-Kazooie must fly around and ground pound giant red X's. If Banjo touches the water, a shark named Snacker will follow him and try to nip at him. I wonder if there are any kids out there that gained a fear of sharks from this dance stage. Snacker can be scary as he chases the player down. I like the lockup chests too. They have items inside of them as they feel very natural to the stage. There are also aquatic mines named Shrapnel, and they will explode if Banjo gets too close. If Banjo moves to his right after the beginning, he'll come across a ship. This will have a crying Captain Blubber on it. He's looking for his very valuable treasure. Climbing to the top of the lighthouse is always fun, as it's feeling leaky with eggs to drain the water around the sandcastle. As for moves learned here, there are 2. One of them is the incredible flying ability. This will enable Kazooie to fly while carrying Banjo, at the cost of red feathers. The other move learned here is the spring jump ability. Pretty underwhelming compared to flying, but if Banjo comes across a shock pad, he can use Kazooie to jump super high. Due to the incredible music, fun theme, great enemies and characters, Treasure Trove Cove is one of my favorite stages in the game. No Mumbo transformations though, which is kind of a shame really. I really would have liked to see what Rare would have come up with for this stage. The third stage is Clanker's Cavern. It's named that because there's a giant-ass metal fish named Clanker that is unfortunately tied down by a chain and key. Luckily, Banjo-Kazooie can free Clanker by swimming through the key at the bottom. This will start turning it. This will lift Clanker up and it will unlock more of the stage. Banjo-Kazooie can enter Clanker in 3 ways. 1 is through the gills, 2 is through the blowhole after he shoots up the screw that was held in there, and the 3rd way is to knock out his 2 golden teeth and enter through the new teeth holes. I'm gonna be honest here though, Clanker's Cavern is just okay to me, which puts it on the lower edge of the stages in my mind. First of all, the swimming is pretty finicky in this game, and moments like trying to free Clanker prove it. The stage also has the everything looks the same to me syndrome, at least to me, and I accidentally go to the same places frequently, like those mini tunnels underwater. Far from a bad stage, but most of the other stages are just so solid. That makes this one look more lacking in comparison. The soundtrack absolutely rocks here though, and the one move that is learned here is great. Banjo-Kazooie will learn the Wonderwing move here, which will cost them golden feathers but will make them invulnerable. Up next is BubbleGloop Swamp, and as the name states, It's a swamp. Mumbo returns as he transforms the Bear and Bird duo into an adorable crocodile. The crocodile can go through the pest-infested water without getting hurt, as well as it fit into small areas. It also has the mighty chop and can compete against Mr. Vile in a war-meeting minigame for a Jiggy. There is one part where the player must ground pound this turtle's limbs here. Doing so will cause it to recoil and open its mouth in pain, where a bunch of choir turtles can be found. The player must repeat their song in order to get a Jiggy, which I am horrible at. My short-term memory is so bad it's laughable. I have to record this part and play it back on my phone every goddamn playthrough. Another Jiggy that I remember getting is breaking the giant-ass egg using a variety of Banjo Kazooie's moves. The Stilt Stride is learned here and allows Kazooie to put on some boots to avoid getting hurt by terrain that would otherwise hurt her. There are a few parts of the stage where Banjo has to navigate thin pieces of land in a short amount of time, and let me tell you, this was annoying as all hell with a drifting Xbox Elite controller. The music here is pretty damn good and it fits the stage's theme as well. I think this is a good stage and probably pretty middle of the pack. Then Banjo and Kazooie have the privilege of going to Freezeezy Peak, which may be my favorite stage in the entire game. Bogey is such a fun character to interact with. Banjo will need to return his sled to him to get a Jiggy. After that, Banjo will need to race him twice. Once as the walrus that Mumbo transforms him into, and once with the turbo Talon Trot that is actually learned in Gobi's Valley. Speaking of the walrus transformation, it also allows Banjo Kazooie to freely navigate the freezing waters that would otherwise hurt them. Woes of the Walrus will also allow Walrus Banjo in the cave, where a Jinjo, a Jiggy, and a hollow honeycomb piece can be found. There is also a Christmas tree in the corner of the stage that needs to be lit up by the Twinklies. To get it lit up, Banjo will need to play a minigame that involves him and Kazooie killing Twinkly Munchers. The player is also tasked with getting up the giant snowman, as that is where Bogey's sled is hiding. The enemies here are mostly consist of sliding ice cubes that can be broken into smaller ice cubes, and snowmen that will chuck snowballs at the player. The music track to this one, oh, it's just simply incredible. Maybe my favorite one in the game. Now, Gobi's Valley is up next. This one has some neat tricks up its sleeve, such as ground pounding Gobi to get the water out of him, shooting eggs into the temple's nose, making the snake come out of its basket by filling it with eggs, and filling up the sand pit at the bottom with water. I admittedly think that this one also has the everything looks the same problem as well. I accidentally entered the same goddamn pyramid several times while trying to figure out which ones I haven't been to yet. Banjo-Kazooie learned the turbo Talon Trot here, which allows Kazooie to put on some shoes that make her run super fast when using the Talon Trot. This can be used to beat some timed events, like getting into this pyramid here, which is only open for a limited time. The Beak Bomb is needed here, so if the player wants to complete this in one sweep, they'd have to go to Freezeezy Peak first and learn it. At the same time, though, they need the Turbo Talon Trot at Freezeezy Peak, so either Gobi's Valley or Freezeezy Peak will need to be entered twice. The music here slaps super hard. It has to be one of my favorite tracks in the game. I like this stage, but entering the same pyramids by mistake is annoying, though. Mad Monster Mansion has to be one of my favorite stages thematically. Everything just works so well here. The transformation of the pumpkin is brilliant. There's a point where the pumpkin must climb up a ramp so it can get on top of the thorn maze. That took me a while to figure out, not gonna lie. Then the pumpkin can get a hollow honeycomb in a tight space, be flushed down by Logo the toilet, and get sucked up into a gutter. It's just such a cute transformation too. Another cool activity in this stage involves playing the organ with mud sand. The floating handle plus certain keys, and Banjo-Kazooie will have to use the Beak Buster on the same keys. I also like the Jiggy with Napper. If Banjo enters the room on the bottom of the mansion, he'll have to walk in the creaky floorboards which will wake Napper up. The duo must ascend to the top of the mansion and fall through the chimney while jumping across chairs. I like some of the enemies a lot here too, such as these tombstones that come alive and chase Banjo if he gets too close. Again, the music here is incredible and it's easily one of my favorite stages, both thematically and gameplay wise. Then there's Rusty Bucket Bay. What hasn't been said about Rusty Bucket Bay? It is by far the hardest stage in Banjo-Kazooie, and this goes double if one is playing the Nintendo 64 version. Let's just get this out of the way now. The damn engine room is still genuinely difficult, even after playing this game for all these years. Yet again, during this playthrough, I died here. I was trying to be patient and not walk on a rotating piece. I thought that maybe because I hit both fan switches that it was disabled. As soon as I stepped on it, the second I did, it turned and I died. It was at this moment that I was truly thankful that I was playing the Xbox 360 version. All those notes in Jinjo stayed collected. Another thing that makes the stage a nightmare is the fact that the water is actually oil, and it kills Banjo quicker when he's underwater. He also doesn't gain his air back by simply resurfacing. He needs to find some land to restore his air. This makes some jiggies, such as swimming through the propellers and saving the cute dolphin named Snorkel, kind of nerve-wracking. I think that the enemies are goofy fun here as well. Some of them imitate real objects, like Flotsam imitating a floaty and Grimlet imitating a cow event. There was also a boss battle here against a giant dynamite boss named Boss Boom Box. I kinda pussed out here and just used Wonderwing. Snacker also returns, because this stage was just too easy, I guess. There are also several windows that can be broken into that will have goodies inside. I really like Rusty Bucket Bay for the challenge it brings. It is, without a doubt, the hardest stage in the game. The music here is also great. Who would have guessed at this point? It's almost like Grant Kirkhope knew what he was doing. The last main stage is called Click Clock Wood. I'd argue that this stage right here is the one that beats out Mad Monster Mansion, thematic-wise. I love the idea of the stage changing between the 4 seasons. In spring, a beaver can't get into his home. In summer, Banjo can break the rock that was blocking it, but he can't get in himself. In fall, Banjo can enter Nabnut's home now and get a Jiggy from him. Meanwhile, in winter, Banjo has to dive in freezing water to obtain the empty honeycomb from Nabnut's home. Another cool element that changes from season to season is the flower that Kazooie can grow by shooting eggs into a hole in the ground. It starts to grow in the spring season, then Banjo can ground pound Gobi to make him water the plant in summer. In fall, Banjo can ground pound poor Gobi yet again and the flower will fully grow and have a Jiggy on top of it. Thematically, the stage is downright perfect. But in all honesty, the actual gameplay could be a bit better. It is true that the seasons changed the platforming a bit, but at the end of the day, it kind of just feels like I'm trudging up the same damn tree 4 times, once every season. Some seasons make it easier, like winter has the flight pad, and Mumbo can transform Banjo into a bee in the spring, but the stage can just get a bit repetitive. The music changes for every season, which of course isn't just incredible. I think that is a nice final stage, though Rusty Bucket Bay is much harder. This almost feels more like a Banjo-Tooie stage with its scope. That's not necessarily a bad thing, as I like Banjo-Tooie. Though, I'd be lying though if I would say the stage didn't feel a bit bloated. There we go, all the stages have been covered. The next logical thing to go over would be the Grunty's Furnace Fun. In the past, I despised this game greatly. Basically, Grunty makes Banjo-Kazooie answer various questions about the game, or participate in timed challenges. These questions get pretty damn specific. Like the game will just show the player a damn staircase and they're just supposed to know what stage it's from. There are music panels as well, which will play a musical track or a sound effect and the player will need to match them up. Another panel is the one with the timer, which will have the player complete in a battle challenge or a matching game. The thing though that turns me off majorly are their Gruntilda spaces. Throughout the game, the player can run into Gruntilda, who will spill the beans about Grunty. The answers to these are save-sensitive though, and all 3 answers rotate, so if one ignores Gruntilda, they should stay away from these spaces. There are also skull spaces that can be a Gruntilda question, which is not fun, because skull spaces automatically kill Banjo if he gets them wrong. Luckily, there are Joker cards that the player can earn by answering a question right on a Joker space. If the player gets a Joker question right, they'll earn 2 Joker cards, and these can bypass 1 space each. I got extremely lucky on this playthrough and got easy Joker questions, so I stocked up 4 Joker cards and skipped all the skull spaces. After completing Grunty's Furnace Fun, Tootie is taken home and the final battle can commence. If one is a tryhard nerd completionist, they can grab nice bonuses before going up and fighting Grunty. For example, if the player grabbed at least 98 Jiggies, as well as 882 musical notes, they can get the red Honeycomb energy, which effectively doubles Banjo's health from 8 to 16, which is extremely useful for this fight. The final fight is actually pretty difficult, and it encourages the player to use a wide variety of moves that Banjo-Kazooie have. At the beginning, they have to rat-a-tat-rap Gruntilda that she scoots by on her broom, then eventually she'll distance herself from the Bear and Bird duo. Now Kazooie has to shoot her with her eggs. After that, she'll head into the sky, and the player will need to land a few successful beak bombs on her. She'll occasionally shoot homing missiles that the duo can avoid using Wonderwing. Eventually, 4 Jinjo statues will be raised. After they've been filled with eggs, they will come alive and attack Grunty. After the 4 Jinjos attack her, the mighty Ginginator statue will rise. After filling 6 eggs into the 4 holes, the mighty Ginginator will attack Gruntilda with enough force to knock her off the castle. She hits the ground rather hard and a boulder will fall on top of her. The neat thing about all these stages is that they're all hosted in one of my favorite hub worlds, called Gruntilda's Lair. It is a giant castle that changes as Banjo travels throughout it. Near Freezeezy Peak, for example, the floor and walls are all covered in snow. Near Gobi's desert, there is a sand pit surrounding the area. Enemies of these worlds escape and try to attack Banjo as he goes by. The music also changes throughout the lair. I'm going to use the Freezeezy Peak as an example again because that stage is just so damn good. When Banjo approaches it, the Freezeezy Peak theme gets mixed into Gruntilda's theme a bit, and the result is just so beautiful. Certain puzzles are required to unlock stages in the hub world. For example, Banjo has to be in pumpkin form to unlock Rusty Bucket Bay. Using the pumpkin small frame, Banjo can sneak through a crack in the door that has a switch that raises the water level. When the water level gets raised, the puzzle template for Rusty Bucket Bay can now be reached. Also in the hub world is Cheeto. He can be found 3 times. One is the crocodile, once is the pumpkin, and once is, well, regular Banjo-Kazooie. He will give them cheats so they can hold double the blue eggs, red feathers, and golden feathers. These codes will need to be filled out in the Treasure Trove Cove Sand Castle. So, what are some bad things about Banjo-Kazooie? There are really only a few true negatives I can come up with. The first one is the swimming, as I personally think it just kinda sucks in this game. I think it was improved in Banjo-Tooie by an incredible amount. It controls better, saving their pet goldfish gave Banjo extra air hexagons, and when those hexagons run out, it's not instant death like it is in Banjo-Kazooie. In Banjo-Tooie, when Banjo's air runs out, his health would go down gradually. There are a few parts, such as getting Nabnut's house during winter in Click Clock Wood, freeing Clanker, or really all of Rusty Bucket Bay, that it felt like I was just gonna die due to the annoying swimming controls. Another one would be the lack of edge holding. Maybe I'm just used to Super Mario 64, but there are jumps that I was like, oh, I'll make that. Then just come up just short, like the smallest amount ever. I expect Banjo to grab on them every time, but it just never happens. A very slight one is the fact that either Freezeezy Peak or Gobi's Valley can't be completed in one sweep. These share power-ups that are needed to complete the stage, but are learned in the other stage. It just seems weird that these are the only two stages that have this issue. The last thing that I can think of is the combat. For enemies that are just sitting around, it's fine. However, there are a few jiggies that require Banjo-Kazooie to take out hordes of enemy in an arena-type setting. The combat just seems a bit too clunky for this to work well, and usually Banjo will take some damage from like bouncing off of one enemy into another. Sometimes I'll just sacrifice golden feathers and just use Wonderwing to get past these challenges. The final thing I want to talk about is the Stop and Swap. It is a very interesting idea that would have had the player swap Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie cartridges. The original N64 models allowed the console to hold the cartridge's memory for 10 full seconds. As the Nintendo 64 received revisions down the line, this was changed from 10 to only 1 second. Rare was aware of this and scrapped it, but the Rare Witch Project, which is a Rare fan site, found out that the eggs themselves were still in the game. In order to get them, Banjo would need to go to the Treasure Trove Cove Sandcastle and ground pound letters to form several codes. A cyan, pink, blue, green, red, yellow egg can be found on top of an ice key in Woz' cave. If these are collected, an additional menu will pop up after the Click Clock Wood menu. If these cheats are entered into the Xbox 360 version, Bottles will tell the player that they are cheating. This results in saving to halt, and the player's score will not be posted on the leaderboards. Funnily enough, though, the Nintendo 64 version of Banjo-Tooie, 3 of the eggs, as well as the ice key, can be found in the game in a normal playthrough. The reason why this caused so much hoopla in the first place is because the game literally tells the player about it. If the player has collected every Jiggy that beats Gruntilda, an extra cutscene will play. This cutscene entails Mumbo telling Banjo-Kazooie about the Stop and Swap. However, this feature was revived in the Xbox 360 version. Collecting these eggs would unlock them in the Xbox 360 version of Banjo-Tooie. From there, Henry the Hen can crack them by sitting on them. These unlock certain hidden moves that Banjo could perform. There's also a gamer pick, an Xbox theme, an unlockable multiplayer character, and Stop and Swap 2, which was actually useless. It's cool that Rare decided to implement this feature for the re-release. So that is Banjo-Kazooie for the Nintendo 64 and Xbox 360. I'm a huge fan of 3D platformers, which is why I adore this game, Banjo-Tooie, and Super Mario 64 so much. Hell, I even like a handful of licensed 3D platformers as well, such as SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom and Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue. I think Banjo-Kazooie is a great example of how a game should focus on more than just gameplay to be an amazing game. Gameplay is king in my opinion, but the charm, music, character, it just takes this game to a whole nother level. The way that Gruntilda always rhymes is simply classic and fun. Every single track in the game gets a foot thump or a whistle. The juxtaposition between the childlike friendly Banjo and the loudmouth annoying Kazooie is amazing. The way they are named after instruments and they pick up music notes makes the game feel like it's a bunch of puzzle pieces that combine to an amazing experience that is really one of a kind. It takes me back to a time where, at least seemingly, video games were made to be fun, rather than just the money-sucking horseshit they have become. Absolutely no doubt in my mind that Banjo-Kazooie is very well deserving of a 7 out of 7. Now I just hope that the long-winded Banjo-Tooie has aged just as well. If one has access to a Nintendo 64, Xbox 360, Xbox One, or Xbox Series S, or even X, or just even a way to emulate it, I recommend Banjo-Kazooie to all. The game is simply incredible, and is one of my favorites.